Microbes and Maladies: How We Study Infectious and Chronic Diseases by Alyssa Gonzalez and Anya Bahl, Columbia University Irving Medical Center. Hi, my name is Anya. I'm an epidemiologist, and I use data and numbers to study Alzheimer's disease at a lab here at Columbia Neurology.
Hi everyone, my name's Alyssa. I'm a microbiologist. That means I study microbes, and I'm doing my PhD here at Columbia University.
So, Alyssa and I are both scientists, and we look at different diseases, but we use the same method. And the framework we use is called the scientific method. And this is a framework that all scientists use to conduct research, no matter the type of research they're doing, no matter the questions they're answering, and no matter what they're looking at. So, the first step in the scientific method is a question. You must have a question. And basically, you want to determine what it is you want to find out. Like, for example, do plants grow faster in sunlight? And the way you ask this question is you first gather some kind of background information to understand more about your topic of interest. Now, once you have the question, you move on to the next step, which is you form a hypothesis. And a hypothesis is basically an educated guess or a prediction about the answer to your question based on the background information you have. For example, if a plant gets more sunlight, then it'll grow faster. That could be your prediction, or it could grow taller. The next step is to experiment and collect data. So you test your hypothesis by changing only one thing at a time. For example, in your experiment, you could have two different plants, one in sunlight and one in shade, and then you could see how fast they grow. And as you're doing this, it's really important to observe them closely, take notes, and collect your data. So for example, here you could measure the height of the plants over time. The next step is to draw conclusions. So once your experiment has finished, you need to figure out what happened. Is your hypothesis right or wrong? So for example, the plant in your sunlight may grow taller, so your educated guess is correct. Or if it doesn't grow taller, then it's not correct, and you want to question why not. And lastly, you have to share your results. You have to tell others what you learned so they can test it too. This could be writing a report to present your findings, talking to other scientists, or going to conferences to present your work in a more formal manner. Scientific research really needs to be reproducible. Now, why does science need to be reproducible? Well, we can't just finish science at the last step of keeping the information for ourselves. We have to share it with other people so we can ensure that the results are accurate and not just random, and that other people can do our experiments to make sure that we didn't get this result by accident. So, for example, you can have something called a technical replicate, which means you're looking at the same samples, you're just doing the same experiment over and over again. This is answering the question, is your measurement accurate? But also, you can have something called a biological replicate, where you have different samples, but you're doing the same test. That's to see, hey, is this true for everyone? And then once you do that, you tell your friends and your other scientists to see if they can test the same idea and see what they find. And you may not realize it, but you actually use a scientific method in real life every single day. Doctors use it to test medications. Engineers use it to improve technology. And in everyday life, we figure out, hey, why isn't my phone charging? And you see, okay, is the socket not working? Is the phone not working? Is the charger faulty? And that's you using the scientific method in real life.
Yeah, so like Anya said, both of us are scientists and we follow the scientific method and we study disease. So what is a disease? A disease is a disorder with a cause that can be known or unknown that induces symptoms, typically anatomical changes in your body. And diseases can be caused by different things like pathogens, bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, which is what I study as a microbiologist, or toxins that the body induces, or dysregulation within your cell's normal day-to-day functioning. But how you study a disease depends on the type of disease causing agent, the scale of investigation, and the questions that you want to answer. And Anya and I will both go into our own research later on in the presentation. So one aspect of disease or one type of disease is infectious disease. Infectious diseases are illnesses that are caused by microbes. Like I said earlier, these could be bacteria, viruses, fungi, or parasites. And there are multiple ways in which people can get infected by these disease-causing agents. You can go through direct contact, like touching someone who's sick. These microbes can be spread via airborne droplets. So if you cough or sneeze and you're sick, you're spreading these microbes via the droplets in the air. There can be contaminated food or water, and if you eat or drink this and ingest microbes, then that can get you sick sometimes. Microbes can also spread via bug bites, so mosquitoes often spread a lot of diseases. Or you can touch infected objects. So microbes, some of the microbes can live on surfaces like doorknobs and phones. You touch them, then you touch your face or some other way that they get into your body and you can get sick. And some common infectious diseases are the flu. Every year there's a new influenza virus. You should get vaccinated every year for the new flu, which makes you tired, feverish, and sneezy. The common colds, you can get a runny nose, a cough, or a sneeze. COVID-19, as many of you might have had, I had it myself, can cause fever, cough, and breathing problems. And malaria, which I wanted to highlight because this is what I study and something that I'll be talking about later on. So it's a disease spread by mosquitoes that can cause fever and chills. And how do we treat infectious diseases? So doctors are able to prescribe antibiotics, which help fight bacterial infections, but they don't work for viruses. So if you have a viral infection, you need to take antiviral medication. So it's important when you're sick or feeling ill to go to the doctor and, get tested to figure out what infectious agent you have so then you can seek appropriate treatment for that agent. And other things that can help are rest, fluids, and healthy food, which strengthen your body's immune system to naturally fight off the infection.
Okay, now I'll talk about chronic diseases. So Alyssa covered infectious diseases, and another type of disease is a chronic disease. And this is a long-lasting illness that doesn't go away quickly and may need lifelong care. Now, how is it different from an infectious disease? Well, first of all, chronic diseases, aren't caused by germs, so you can't catch it from anyone else. It develops slowly and lasts for months or years. Now, the question is, if you can't catch it, how do you get